52 times a year, I slam my knife into this cutting board to end this show. That doesn't include all the chopping, the pasta cutting, the hot pans that I lay straight onto it, all the meals that I cook for myself, all the recipes I test for this show. Needless to say, by the end of a year, I've abused this cutting board and it needs revival. Now, I can't prove that 99% of you have never done this vital kitchen maintenance to their cutting board, but I just know it's true. If you're anything like my mom, you would look at this and maybe just throw it out and buy a new one. But I'm gonna show you how to take a dried up, chipped cutting board like this one and restore it back to life, back to brand new. And if you can keep a routine up like this, your cutting board could last a lifetime. This is how to restore a wooden cutting board. Now, would you look at that? Looks brand new. I'd buy this. Now, the first step, mine's particularly bad, especially on the back side, holes all over it, real rough chips. So if you can feel real chipped up pieces, then you're gonna need to sand it. If you don't, then you can just sanitize it and then oil it. To sanitize, I would just take some salt and pour it right on, a healthy amount all over the board, and then take a cut side of a lemon and just scrub that salt all over the cutting board. That's gonna sanitize it. Wood's already pretty good at being antimicrobial, but that abrasive gets up any gunk, sanitizes it, gets it ready. If you would do that, you would just dry it and then oil it. Now, we need deep restoration. So we're gonna have to put our home improvement hats on and pick up some sandpaper. If you got one of those automated ones, that's great. If not, you could just get one of these sanding blocks. I've got some sheets for that and one super fine one, right? What we're gonna need is an 80 grit, a 120 grit, and a 220 grit. I don't have 80, I've got 60 and 100 are my finest. The side from this year is pretty good. The other side is from last year. So maybe I might do the 60 grit on here. The 60 grit is for really bad damage, but it does take away a lot of the wood, so you have to be careful. We're gonna start with 100 on this side and see where we're at. So just like a knife, sharpening a knife, you start at the most coarse and you work your way towards super fine. What the f? It's not long enough. This is why I don't do this. All right, I got backups. I got 60, 100, 150, 220. We're gonna make that work. So I'm gonna start with 100. Let's see if this works. Oh my God. All right, this thing. It's like cooking. We don't need no stinking tools. Now, I'm gonna sand in a circular motion. Once you've worn it out, other side. Get the sides. Since the cuts are pretty bad, I'm gonna switch to the 60 grit. Right here, this is where the knife lands when I drop it. So I'm gonna pay extra attention here. And we're just trying to buff out all the real damaged pieces of the board. The edges might need some love too. What you wanna do, especially with a 60 grit, is make sure you're evenly going around the board and not working too much in one spot, or you can take away too much and sort of create an unlevel board. Once you're done with that side, we're just gonna wipe off any excess dust and hit the other side. This side's worse. Lots of chips on this side. This one's gonna need work, but usually I use one side a year. Big chip right there. You're not gonna do much to fill that, but you can definitely smooth it out. Now I'm gonna work out a few trouble areas. Well, let's get all this off. Now next is a very important step. Before we go ahead with the finer grain sanding, we gotta do something called like water popping, which is basically, it feels smooth now, but there may be some imperfections. And if we spray it with water, then what this water will do once we dry this board, any little fibers of the board that are still kind of unbuffed will poke up and we'll start to feel this fuzziness on the board. That's gonna help us then use this finer grains to buff it all out and get it nice and smooth. So I'm just gonna hit it both sides, all over. Now, we're just gonna let this air dry. Now, the board is dry. And what you're gonna notice when you feel it, as opposed to before we sprayed it with water, it was very, very smooth. It's almost like peach fuzz, right? A little bit of a rough surface, and that's all those wood fibers kind of curling up as they dry from being wet. Now we're gonna come in with the 150 grit, the middle grit. And we're gonna buff out all of those hairs. All I know is tech class was my favorite class, woodworking class. And I heard they don't even do that anymore. This is a travesty with education today. No home ec, no bake sales, no woodworking. This is why society is crumbling. Some of these are pretty deep. You're not really going to buff it all the way down unless you buff off everything else. So what you're really looking to do is get a nice smooth surface to anything that's too bad. The wax we put in at the end sort of fills up all of those cracks and protects it. That's one side. It's already looking better. So now what we did was just buff out all of those little fuzz that we created after spraying. Now that we're almost done here, we can move on to the finest grit, the 220, and really smooth this thing out. Now to finish, I'm just gonna do big strokes now. This is the final buff. I'm gonna wipe it, and then finally the other side. Now she's beautifully smooth. I'm just gonna take a damp cloth. I wanna get all that excess sawdust off of it. Yeah, all that gunk wiped off. What's nice is instantly you don't smell like residual garlic or lemon or anything. You smell wood. It smells like a candle again. Now we're just gonna let this air dry once again. Then we move into the oil and the cream. Now, if you had just sanitized it and never needed to sand it like I did, after sanitizing and drying, you'd move on to this step. And here, I'm using the Booze Block products just because it came with the board, but you got a mineral oil. They call it mystery oil. It's a food grade mineral oil. A lot of people don't know about moisturizer. They go their whole life scratching in the winter, itchy. It's because they're dried out. They don't have any moisturizer on them. Wood and humans and skin, same idea. Every month or so, a little bit of oil on your board keeps it nice and hydrated and extends the life of the board. Prevents cracks, protects it. The board cream helps make it waterproof, helps fill cracks, and again, helps prevent any moisture to seep too deep in the board and create like mold or something like that. So once this dries up, we start applying this. Now, our board is nice and dry. We're gonna start with our mineral oil. You can use a sponge, you can use paper towel, whatever. So now we're gonna start pouring that oil all over the board. Now you can't really add too much. The wood will just absorb it like a sponge. So you wanna be generous, and then rub it in. We're entering the satisfying part of all of this, when the board comes back to life. Now we're just gonna wipe off all the excessive residual oil on the board. Now I'm just gonna lean it up, you know, the long way, a few edges touching a counter, and allow this to completely air dry. Allow the wood to completely soak up all of that oil, and then we can enter the final stage of this. It's only been an hour or so, and the board has absorbed all of that oil. Looks great, and you could stop here, or you could add layers upon layers, depending on how much love you want to give it. If it's really dry, if you hadn't done this in a long time, maybe another coat of mineral oil wouldn't hurt you. But we're gonna be using the block cream. This is beeswax and mineral oil. And this is gonna help hydrate it further and help kind of seal it, like not technically, but it protects it from getting water in, sort of fills up all the cracks, and it's just good practice. Squirt that right on. The other one's like baby oil. This is sort of like lotion. We're just gonna rub that in. I'm just rubbing it in, circular motions. Same with the edges. I'm just gonna wipe off the excess, flip it, repeat on the other side. Get that excess off. And now I'm gonna take this time to move that, let it dry off to the side, and deep clean some of these areas that don't see the light of day throughout the year. It's just gonna take a sponge with some soap, give it a nice clean. Now you should do this regularly, the cutting board cleaning, the oiling, the sanitizing, maybe not the sanding, that's once a year. So you don't do it every month. I'm guilty of it sometimes. Make it a point once a year to just show it deep love. Spend some time as the year winds down, you don't have much going on, and take care of your stuff. Now I can add my new measured out, whatever it's called, cabinet liner. And this is gonna keep my board nice and secure throughout the year so I can safely cut all of my vegetables. Now would you look at that? Looks brand new, I'd buy this. Looks healthy, vibrant, a thing you want to cut vegetables on. Now it'll need 24 hours really to fully absorb, but for all intents and purposes, you're good to go. We're back home. When you zoom out, it looks impeccable, but when you look closer, you see some of the scars. You see the character of the board that you've used for years. But even where I slam my knife, I can barely even tell where the cuts used to be. This is what a cutting board should look like after you've properly restored it. I was zoomed out a little bit, hold on. See, now that feels right. I can now go on vacation knowing as soon as I come home, everything's ready to go. I can jump into the year. Now for written instructions on how to do this, I'm gonna leave a link down to the description. Head on over and check out our Patreon. Check out the Patreon school we're running, a cooking school. Other than that, new recipes starting next week. We're entering year 8 of Not Another Cooking Show with you guys. Appreciate you all. Can't wait for another year. That's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself. Go feed yourself. I'm not gonna knife drop today. We did too much work.